Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Sasso insecticide spray and coil.
Hello, good evening. Welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live from Sabata Desawe Kanda, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. I'm Alfred Ocansey. Tonight, 100 days in government. Essentially, just said about 101 days. What has the John Dramani Mahama-led National Democratic Congress government to show for the overwhelming mandate trusted them in the 2024 general elections? We scrutinized the 120 days social contract by the President, John Dramani Mahama, with the Ghanaian people. Stay with us here on Ghana Tonight. Also, varied views over how Goldfields Damang Mine should be managed going forward after government's refusal to review the lease. We'll hear from proposals from industry players and experts. Stay with us. Also, over 200 persons rescued at Oyarifa in Accra from what is suspected to be human trafficking. The Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO, has been carrying out some operations. And we have some further detail because my colleague Eric Mayona-Egbota spoke to one of the victims of this human trafficking ring or syndicate, and as always, you're an integral part of it. Let's hear from you. We have eyes on illegal mining as well tonight. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. Let's get talking. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
The Economic and Organized Crime Office says it is collaborating with sister state institutions to clamp down on human trafficking gangs in Ghana. It follows the successful rescue of some 219 persons suspected to be victims of human trafficking at Oyarifa Thursday dawn in a joint security swoop.
Going forward, the Economic and Organized Crime Office and that of the CID, we have mapped up strategies that the two of us, that is the CID and then EOCO, we should work more closely than before. Similar operations are taking place somewhere, but we are trying to unite or join these operations together for one purpose so that we can join resources, do a thorough investigations, and then share resources to reconnect the victims with their relatives.
The overlord of Mamprugu, Nairi Na Bohagu Mahami Abdullahi Shariga, has urged President John Mahama to enhance security in Boku and surrounding areas following recent attacks. This plea comes as the Asantehene Otumfo Osei Tutu II leads a delegation aimed at fostering peace between the conflicting factions. Spokesperson for the Nairi, Mba Patirani, addressed a news conference earlier on Thursday.
Security personnel and logistics addressed concerns raised by the police and military command in Boku regarding insufficient manpower and logistics by deploying the required number of personnel to maintain law and order. Though costly, this measure is far more prudent than bearing the price of insecurity. 2. Empower security forces. Ensure that security forces operate without undue political interference, enabling them to pursue and apprehend known criminal elements disrupting the peace.
The Director General of the National Road Safety Authority, Abraham Amaliba, has called on drivers to prioritize safety, especially during the Easter season. He emphasized that road accidents claim more lives than many illnesses, highlighting the urgent need for increased vigilance on the roads.
I'm making this call because we are heading towards the Easter festivities. So both drivers and pedestrians to be cautious, particularly the drivers who would want to make their journeys and return because it's a festive occasion, people are traveling, must be aware that they only live once. The profits they are looking for would continue to be there long after they are gone. It is important that drivers adhere to road safety requirements.
The government has extended an invitation to the military juntas in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger to attend the official launch of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, 50th anniversary celebration in Accra. Addressing the media, Minister for Foreign Affairs Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa stated that the invitation is a step toward strengthening ties within the West African sub-region.
As we mark 50 years of ECOWAS, it is imperative that we seize this moment to chart a bold and ambitious course for the next 50 years. The ECOWAS at 50th anniversary is not merely a ceremonial event. It is a strategic opportunity to celebrate our achievements in fostering regional stability, economic growth, and cultural exchange, strengthen solidarity among member states amidst evolving geopolitical dynamics, enhance public awareness of ECOWAS's role in peacekeeping, trade, and development, advance inclusive dialogue on the future of regional integration.
The Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, has expressed concerns over the government's refusal to renew Goldfields Ghana Limited's Damang Mine license, citing suspicions of on-hand dealings. ACEP questions the logic behind the decision, emphasizing that if the state indeed believes there are no reserves, why the eagerness to assume the risks associated with the mine?
We are cautioning that we should go back to the negotiation table and put the national interest above any other interest and make sure that the right things are done. That helps us to send the right signal to investors. If we are tired of the investors, let's tell them that we own the assets, we are tired of you. Give us our resources and go so that we can mine it ourselves. That is also an option. But let's not recalibrate and misinterpret the laws just to justify an agenda that is set in motion.
Well, it's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, 100 days in government. What has the John Dramani Mahama administration, that's the led National Democratic Congress government, to show for the overwhelming mandate trusted in the 2024 general elections? Really, we scrutinize the 120-day social contract, the 120-day promise that John Mahama gave to the Ghanaian people upon assumption of office on January 7, 2025. Now, today marks 100 days, just a little beyond the 100 days, as we're saying now, since John Dramani Mahama was sworn in as President of the Republic of Ghana for the second time, or for his second term as President. Now, together with his government, he has been up to a lot in an attempt to reset the economy, as he promised ahead of the general elections in 2024. He had also set for his government a 120-day timeline to achieve certain things. And tonight, we're going to subject this 120-day social contract to some scrutiny and a conversation. Dennis Popewadam is with me, and we catalog it all together, so you follow us every step of the way. Dennis, it's good to have you.
Always a pleasure being here, Alfred.
Talk to us. What's the details of this 120-day social contract and the verdict on all of them, as has been outlined?
Well, the verdict, as we always say, is with the people.
Indeed.
So we'll just point out some of the things that have been done. We'll match them with the social contracts, and of course, we see whether that is done or that is yet to be done. And for some of them, how far they have been done. Perfect. So when you look at the social contract as we have it, you will find a summary of it just behind me. And we have tried to make it interactive, just so that when we confirm that it is done, we can check it and get it out of the way. Mm-hmm. First off, one of the key things that the John Dramani Mahama-led administration said they were going to do within the 120 days, and of course this was supposed to be done within 14 days actually, that to appoint, nominate complete list of cabinet ministers in the first 14 days. Mm-hmm. So that's basically talking about the appointment of the cabinet ministers, and that he said was going to do within 14 days.
That's right.
We have all seen how that has panned out. Yes, he tried. Quite a number of them were nominated, However, not all of them were done within the 14 days. But to think that this was substantially performed, I mean, in contract law, we have something we call substantial performance. To mean that even though it's not perfect, it's good enough.
Right.
I mean, because what has been done is more than what has not been done.
So essentially, yes, this has been achieved?
Yes, it has been achieved, except it didn't fall within the timelines. The list was not complete. And even as we speak, we still have some outstanding
deputy ministers,
but that will fall under the next one, not the cabinet. Okay. But the cabinet itself is something else. Yes. So let's take this to say this is done. So this is out of the way.
Perfect.
Now, there was also a promise to constitute the leanest and the most efficient government under the Fourth Republic in 90 days. The leanest government, that has been a key thing in the campaign manifesto, to the effect that they were going to run a government with only 60 ministers, of course, includes deputy ministers. So when it comes to lean, in terms of numbers, it's easy to compute. However, when it comes to most efficient, that is somehow subjective. So we may not be able to assess this as at this point. But of course, when it comes to the lenient, how lean the government will be, we're able to put numbers to that. And of course, he has done so. Within the 90 days again, there's a challenge there because as we speak, there are still 4 outstanding deputy ministers that are supposed to be nominated. The last time he saw in the last batch of ministers, he had indicated that he was going to present the 4 ministers within that week. That has not happened yet. But of course, the government has been constituted.
It's actually been in just about, it's been over a month, actually.
Yes.
Over a month since he made that promise that the 4 deputy ministers remaining were going to be named.
Yes.
But we're still waiting for that.
But, I mean, be that as it may, now we have 56 ministers. And, I mean, he's put other things in place, as in appointing acting CEOs and those other heads of states who are supposed to run other parts of the government. That is in place. But the question of the 90 days again comes to play. So if what I said earlier is anything to go by, it holds to this substantial performance. Let's check this too as well. So the next has to do with the establishment of
I want to hold you on a bit on that because I'm seeing in the interface you are putting on the screen that whenever you click and you tick the box, the percentage, you're giving percentages to the promises that have been fulfilled so far.
Precisely so, because it's automatically computing the percentage of progress. So if we say that the first 2 have been done, it means 8% of the social contract has been achieved.
Right.
So by the time we are done, we'll see how much of it has been done and how much of it has not been done.
Okay, great.
So the next one has to do with the code of conduct for government officials. Another key thing that the president himself has always spoken about it, especially when he's swearing in government, his appointees. He tells them how they are supposed to conduct themselves. However, we haven't seen any official documents to this effect, as in the Code of Conduct for Government Officials. So for that reason, we are unable to check this one. So this is still outstanding per what we know.
Right.
There was also a promise to hold a national economic dialogue and develop a homegrown fiscal plan. This national economic dialogue, yes, we know it's being held. The committee has actually issued its communique, making proposals as to how the economy should be handled and all of that. So that's also is something that has been taken. We get it out of the way. There was also a promise to scrap harsh taxes, which includes the e-levy, COVID levy, betting tax, and the emissions tax. Yes, that came with the budget and then the subsequent passage of the the corresponding laws that took away these taxes. The biggest relief for me in particular would be the e-levy. So that's, we know it's out of the way. So there are no questions about whether or not it's actually been done.
Right.
So let's move on to the next one. There was a promise to review import taxes on industrial and agricultural equipment. This is one thing that has not been out there yet.
Yes.
So it's quite difficult for us to place a finger on whether or not it is done. So the assumption is that if it were done, we would have known because, those in this sector are supposed to be the beneficiaries of it. So we are unable to deal with that.
In fact, this actually became a subject of conversation when the Feed Ghana project was launched over the weekend, because this promise is specific to the agricultural sector.
Precisely so.
The import taxes on industrial and agricultural equipment.
Yes.
So we'll see how the coming days will look like, whether after this launch of the Feed Ghana program, then it would culminate into this agricultural equipment now, the importation of this agricultural equipment, enjoying this review of the import taxes. And we'll talk about review in this sense, it should be a downward review. I mean, because if it's a promise to review import taxes, it has to be downwards, so that, well, essentially
it's only fair.
It would achieve a certain benefit. That's saying.
True. It's only fair to assume that a review could mean downwards because it's a promise. However, in the strict sense of it, a review could be either ways, upwards or downwards. But of course, you and I would expect that it should be downward, especially so when it's a promise.
Absolutely.
Yes. So let's leave that hanging because, I mean, finality hasn't been brought to it yet. Now, there was also the promise to prepare the legal groundwork for the 24-hour economy policy. Another major promise. And this is because it does appear that the whole manifesto of the NDC revolves around this.
Yes.
I mean, it was more like the trump card for the party.
Program for the
flagship, yes. So, I mean, expectations were high, and that this was going to be done so that they will hit the ground running. However, the actual promise was actually to commence the drafting of this policy. So, to the extent that it is about commencement, yes, we know for a fact the Secretariat has been established. There is a presidential advisor for the 24-hour economy. They are working. So that commencement, yes, he was even before Parliament for the post-budget review to brief Parliament on what is going on. So that process, for that reason, we know is ongoing. Well,
I mean, but does that, in the strict sense of the word, lead to a fulfillment of this promise? Because you hear, for instance, a demand for a blueprint, so we get to know what this 24-hour economy policy is about, and then also the implementation timelines.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's why when you look at the exact wording, as was contained in the 120-day social contract, it says that they are going to commence drafting.
Okay.
It's a commencement. It did not say it was going to be established or rolled out or that. Okay. So it was commencing drafting. And that's why, for me, I think that if we are going by what has been put out there by their own words, let's credit them with that so that we can take this and get it out of the way. Okay. To even think that a presidential advisor has been announced, they are at work, they have a secretariat where they are working from.
Gusitano, eh?
Yes.
Okay.
So let's move on to the next. The eighth one is the setup of the Associated Export Development Council to boost exports. Yes, this, not much has been said about it too, so we skip to the next. Host a national conference on the education forum. This too was done. It was a 10-day program. It toured the whole country to solicit views as to how to reform the education sector, including the free senior high school and all of that. So that too is out of the way. There is the implementation of the no academic fee policy for the first year tertiary students. That's what we do know is the fact that some funds have been allocated for the program itself, but the implementation as to whether students are beginning to benefit from it is yet to happen.
Right.
So yes, I mean, in the 2025 budget, which was read somewhere last month or so, there was an allocation for that purpose. So to that extent, we say yes, that is also something that's...
So there was that promise to refund those who are paid, the monies will be refunded to them. So I mean, in checking that as well, maybe beyond today, we'll be finding out whether the refund process has begun, right?
Sure.
So then we would also, because then it's been captured in the budget, but that's an allocation. Disbursement will then actualize the promise captured in the budget.
But what this all means is that the process is in motion. So on that, let's credit them with an implementation. Unfortunately, with what we are doing here, it's unable to do midway. It's either it's done or it's not done. So when we pass a verdict, it means that we are checking it off. So for this, we are giving them that credit and checking it off. Okay. Now there's also the promise to introduce social intervention, like the free tertiary education for persons with disabilities. Mahama Care, this also includes the part that there was supposed to be provision of free sanitary pads for young girls, was captured in this one. So then again, allocation was made in the 2025 budget for that purpose. So we take that one. We go to the next. The distribution of these parts was also a promise that was made. As we speak, that distribution process, as we know, is not ongoing yet.
Yes.
In fact, some civil society organizations have been asking how the distribution is going to be done and what models are going to be used. So to that extent, that still is an outstanding promise.
Okay.
Launch forensic audits into key corruption scandals. This started off with the oral preparatory team. I mean, they did a lot of work into this space. They submitted their report, forwarded to the Attorney General. Attorney General is working on it. So to that extent, we can safely say that that matter has been dealt with, even though it's still an ongoing process.
Well, yeah, but you know that the AG had already given indication that some forensic audit was going to be conducted.
Yes.
Into a number of these corruption-related cases they are
Precisely
doing.
so. And they mentioned some of them,
and
the National Cathedral, they mentioned the COVID testing, and then some of those major scandals that...
Yes, and even the ECG missing containers
and all that.
Energy Minister has said that they're going to launch a forensic audit into it, which has started, we understand, as well, into it as well. So, yeah.
Exactly. Ban political appointees from buying state assets. This was supposed to come with a certain law. Besides the executive directive that came from the presidency, this actually was supposed to be put in a law that will be passed by Parliament to regulate how not political appointees should not interfere into those spaces.
Right.
But what we have seen so far is some sort of an executive directive that don't do this, don't do that. But as for the law itself,
it's not in place.
That is not in place. So, to that extent, what do you think? Done? Not done?
Well, it's not done. I mean, beyond the directives, you hear the president, he said it a number of times whenever he's swearing his ministers and deputy ministers in, and he's made that statement even outside of that, that these government appointees are barred from buying state assets.
Yes.
There has to be a law to it.
Exactly.
Beyond it. So it cannot be achieved.
So until the legal framework is put in place, we see that is still outstanding. Now, there was also the promise to allocate seed money for the establishment of the Women's Bank. Now, this is important because this has become a very contentious matter. Because for many, they understood this to mean that the government had said that within the 120 days, they were going to establish the Women's Bank. No. When you look at the exact wording in the social contract, it says that they were going to allocate seed capital. I mean, the seed money.
Right.
That they have done in the 2025 budgets. There are also, I mean, arguments as to how small the money is, but that is a different matter altogether. The promise was that we are allocating money. In my view, and for purpose of this, even if they allocate $1 to it or 1 cedi to it, this will suffice to make up for this.
Okay. So the conversation about whether or not that's enough, that's the secondary stage of analyzing
yes,
this
that's
promise.
another step.
So you're looking at the exact wording.
Because we have said
captured.
We are going to match their social contract with what is on the ground.
I see.
That allocation has been done in the budget, unless, of course, somebody says that allocation has not been done.
Okay.
Okay. The next, create jobs through the Ejumara apprenticeship and 1 million coders. This was, so that too had to do with the launch of that program. At least we have seen the launch of the 1 million coders program that was done yesterday.
Yes.
Was it yesterday or 2 days ago?
Yesterday.
Yes. So to that extent, so that we will not have to, scrap the ban on salvage vehicles imports to support local artisans.
Oh, that has not been done.
Not yet.
Yes. And, well, yes, it hasn't been done. We haven't really had any conversation on that even, because I've heard the likes of...
I mean, the convenient point for it to have been done would have been to come with the budget.
True.
Yes.
Yeah, but spare parts dealers have been asking about this, and then also you have some of the second-hand vehicles imports association also asking for this as well, because then the price of vehicles and spare parts have gone up over time, and so these interventions would help reduce the prices, which would now also have a trickle-down effect on other things, including transport fares and so on.
Precisely so. So that's still outstanding. Let's just run through it quickly and then. So the next one is to reform the government scholarship to end political favoritism. Yes, so this has to do with a new law that's supposed to come and set up an entity that replaces the scholarship secretariat. That the education minister has hinted that will be put before Parliament when they reconvene. As it stands now, Parliament has not reconvened, so we can safely say that this is still in the works, but not done, for which reason we are unable to take it. There's also the promise to ban illegal mining and to launch environmental recovery initiatives. This had to come with the one they launched just a few days, the blue
water
initiative, so and then there's another one. They were supposed to in that space.
The LI 2462 and all of those things.
Yes, so that's where the challenge is, and that will be a reason for which I personally will not take this.
Because the LI 2462 is being amended and not repealed?
Because there was a promise to ban mining in forest reserves.
Yes.
And also to launch those initiatives. Those initiatives have been launched, all right. However, the ban we have seen is just, again, executive directive through the EPA that don't mine in forest reserves.
Yeah.
However, the law that allows for the mining in forest reserves, which the promise was to repeal or to revoke, now we see there's an attempt to amend portions of it. So that's why, to that extent, I think if...
Well, if we speak to the last minister, the environment minister, the argument is that they have repealed the aspects of the law that were problematic, that was giving access to companies to mine in forest reserves, and then those other aspects that are good is what is being kept. So the other CSOs are asking that, okay, instead of doing that, then repeal and then bring in a new law, which will still have elements of what you are hoping to keep in the LI 2462. But so it's a secondary conversation.
The initiative launched the ban through executive means, not legislative as we intended. So yes, okay, let's pass it. Introduce Black Star experience to boost tourism. This, I'm not too sure. I haven't seen this yet.
No.
The launch of this program.
There's been conversation
about it, yes. There's been conversations, there's been appointments that are geared towards that line, but the launch itself, no. Purge security agencies of militia and vigilante elements. This, not yet. Reopen investigations into major unresolved crimes.
Yeah, there are some cold cases. You know, the former IGP, George Kofodampare, put some cold case unit at the police service, the likes of Ahmed Swale's case, and then also you heard the president sometime 2 weeks ago talk about the reopening of the investigations into the murder of JB Dankwa Edu as well in there. So, yeah, it's to you.
Right. So to that extent, we take that. There's also a promise to probe the Akosombo Dam spillage and its impacts, and then to compensate the victims of that incident.
That's a provision in the budget.
Yes. And again, there's been conversations and engagements on this particular matter. But as to what form this probe was supposed to take, we are not sure. Whether it's going to be some commission of inquiry that is going to go into it. We don't know how it's going to be done.
Absolutely.
But so to that extent, for me, for the compensation, because there's an allocation for that purpose, I would rather we take this and leave this.
Okay.
Because if there's a probe, then it means that somebody should be identified to have been the cause of it, or some people should have been identified to be the cause of it.
Okay.
We should be able to tell the extent of damage and all that assessment should be, and then...
That's a fair point. The last one, restructure loss-making state
but hold on.
enterprises.
Hold on. Initiate immediate steps to compensate the victims. Okay. So that's the reason, because there's an initiation of the step.
Exactly.
We're marking that.
True.
Now, the very last item would be restructure loss-making state-owned enterprises. A lot of conversation on this, but the restructuring itself, these state-owned enterprises are legal establishments. So they're going to be restructuring. It's a safe point to begin from. I do admit that it could also be administrative. But as we speak, not much has been done in this space.
Indeed. For
us to be able to take it. So having done this, let's see what our calculator says.
It says 56%.
56%. In 100 days. 20 more days to go, or say 19 days to go.
And that's relatively subjective. I mean, obviously, for our viewers, you also have your own bit and what you're looking at.
Maybe there are portions that viewers thought we should have ticked for them that we haven't ticked.
True.
There are places that they thought we shouldn't have ticked, which we have.
That's why it's relative.
But of course,
we have a conversation. We also give detail and reasoning why some have been ticked and others have also been left and not ticked. This interface in the coming days will make it available on 3news.com for our viewers to
also
interact
assess
with it as
and get their own percentages.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we do this with them, you know, so they have a say in what we say here. Thank you, Dennis Poberi Wadam Esquire, as always. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure, Alfred, to be here.
For as long as this 120 days is not up yet, this is going to be a continuous exercise. But coming up next, over 200 persons rescued at Oyarifa in Accra from what is suspected to be human trafficking. The Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO, has been carrying out some operations, and we have some details for you. Well, earlier today, the Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO, says it is collaborating with sister state institutions and as investigative bodies to clamp down on trafficking gangs in the country. It follows the successful rescue of some 219 victims at Oyarifa earlier today. So it was a dawn operation. The security, both the CID, EOCO, the military, as well as we're hearing. But let's hear from the acting executive director of EOCO, Abdul Bashiru Dapila.
At the moment, the screening is still going on, and then we are thinking that come what may, by tomorrow, we should be able to complete with the screening. Going forward, the Economic and Organized Crime Office and that of the CID, we have mapped out strategies that the two of us, that is the CID and then EOCO, we should work more closely than before. Similar operations are taking place somewhere, but we are trying to unite or join these operations together for one purpose so that we can join resources, do a thorough investigations, and then share resources to reconnect the victims with their relatives.
Well, when you hear the EOCO acting boss talk about similar operations taking place elsewhere, we know earlier today the central region as well, and over 40 persons were arrested there as well for all of these same human trafficking cases. And then also this week has been busy on this particular subject. 16th of April, that was yesterday, some 2 persons were remanded over human trafficking. Chidima Nweke, also known as Mama, is a 24-year-old sex worker, and Mercy Francis, 27-year-old trader, alleged to have trafficked victims from Nigeria to Ghana under the pretext of securing them jobs. We understand over 30 of them as well. So these 2 have been arrested as the persons who have been doing this. And then also the pair were arrested, we understand, by the police officers at Esoja Krobo, a town in the western north region of Ghana. So that complements what the EOCO boss is saying. It's an operation that's going on across the country. Nweke is said to have trafficked 1 victim, while Francis allegedly trafficked 2 others. On the 12th of April, the police also busted an internet fraud human trafficking ring in the Ashanti region. The Ashanti Regional Police Command arrested a 29-year-old Cameroonian. So take note of the national. So there's this Nigerian, in this case in the western north region. We're talking about in the Ashanti region, Cameroonian national Bella Mary, along with 43 other Cameroonians for alleged internet fraud, human trafficking. They were arrested at a residence located in Kenyasi Abrem in the Ashanti region. This was on the 12th of April, in fact, earlier. And then this also reported on this date. My colleague, Eric Mayonagbeta, who was at the press conference by EOCO earlier today, giving details of the dawn bust of this particular syndicate, having 219 people in an estate in Oyarifa, camp them there for the purposes of engaging in these nefarious activities of cyber crime. 219 of them. Some of them, according to Mauna, who interacted with one of the victims, said they had not seen the sun or daylight for almost a year. Take a look.
Because of the hardship of Nigeria, but due to the circumstances of the Nigeria and the situation of Nigeria, my boss directed me to come to Ghana, but he did not tell me exactly what I'm coming to Ghana to do. But he told me that I will come to Ghana and live with him. Then actually, I came to Ghana to stay, to work with him, and I found out that finally he's an internet operator. He works under fraudster movement. So I don't have any other solution because we are not meant to go outside. We cannot stay outside. We cannot see the in and outside. We cannot see daytime and bright time. We always stay inside our rooms. So I've been in Ghana for 1 year now. This month has made me 1 year in Ghana.
And when you came, you said you are not allowed inside or outside. How many were you? What was the sort of condition you were living in whilst you were there for 1 year?
Actually, we are 10 in number. Currently, we are 10 in number. We are more than 10 when I come to the office, but some other guys have run away based on the condition and the situation of the office. Then we are more than 1 year. We are more than 20 in the office, but currently now we are 10. So, and we are not feeding well. Actually, we are eating once in a day. As this plate was given to us, we eat it by 8 p.m. at night. So we will not eat again till the next 8 p.m. at night.
And how have you survived all this while up until now?
By God's grace, I've been surviving by that 1 year. I've been surviving by eating that once in a day. I don't have any other solution and any other determination. It's just to hustle and pray to God for my own rescue. Like an opportunity like this is what I've been praying for since how many months, getting to 1 year now.
Are you okay? You don't look well. Are you okay?
No, I'm not currently okay because this is not my condition before. I am more than this. If you call my colleagues, they will tell you that I grabbed. I have a lot of flesh in my body. But now, people are saying that I've lean, and I don't know what my mother or my parents will also say about me.
So right now, you're looking forward to return home, return to Nigeria, to your parents and your family?
Yes, I'm looking forward. I'm very happy to go back to Nigeria to visit my parents and to also see my family instead.
Well, this is a story that reflects the condition of a number of them, that 219 you saw there. And Richard Commodore is a former operative of the National Intelligence Bureau of then BNI, and they have done a number of these operations to clamp down on these human trafficking syndicates over time. He's a security analyst who's joining us on Zoom right now. I thank you, as always, Mr. Kumado, for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. I mean, hearing the modus operandi of these syndicates, as we have seen, and the IOCO details they gave us, these persons operate in an estate. Some of them have been there for over a year. They are not allowed to come out. They are in there. Laptops there, the internet routers, and they are doing internet fraud, cyber crime. How does all of this strike you?
Definitely, it took me aback. I thought we have done enough as a nation dealing with issues of human trafficking that has everything linkage to do with money laundering and many of the nefarious activities they engage in. I've heard human trafficking is serious, transnational, and cross-border crime, well organized, that victims could go for days and months and years, and they may not see the sun, and they suffer various degrees of injustice against them. I'm happy this case is happening to the fall again, that will clap for the Yoko boys, but I'm also happy if the agencies can work together, the migration unit at the immigration, the anti-human trafficking unit at the Ghana Police Service. Then they have a department at the gender ministry. If they work together with the NGOs in the system, I think we may be able to crack it open wider than we are doing now.
Over time, we'll hear of these stories where these people are camped in obscure places, right? But this one appears to be an outlier where you have these persons camped in an estate, a gated community for this long. What could have been amiss? Why didn't anybody see them earlier than now, as we are hearing that some of them have been in Ghana for almost 2 years?
They live a disguised life, and your freedom is curtailed, your communications are monitored, your movements are restricted, and sometimes your traveling documents are confiscated. And so it makes the victims afraid, and that draws them deeper, that they may not talk to anybody. And now the kingpins or the ringleaders live a disguised life, and they fake it. So you may think they are into some regular businesses that brings the money. And today, because everybody worships money, even if they live in those communities, people think, yeah, they are living together as family. They may not obviously set up a business in those communities. And people are also living through individualism today in this country. So nobody is nosing around. But having said that, what triggers some of these things is one person sneaking out to speak, and the speed of the investigative teams and the law enforcement agencies getting involved is what breaks their chain. And so once again, they've run this organization and they run this scheme for 1 year and plus. And thankfully, they have been able to be bastardized. I think the law must take its course, and once prosecutions take its course, it will serve as deterrent to some other people. Other than that, human trafficking is a prevalent crime in our country and across Africa, where Africans traffic Africa, Africans traffic Africans across Africa and beyond the borders of Africa. Then you can have foreigners also, just like we're hearing Cameroonians and Nigerians, where they traffic our people across the Mediterranean, and the consequences are very harsh.
I see, but to the extent that I'm seeing this trend where this person doesn't own this house in the estate, it was rented. What is the role of the landlords or landladies or owners of buildings that they rent to also complement the work of the security agencies in this regard?
Immigration is strict about landlords renting houses to people they knew nothing about. Financial Intelligence Center that deals predominantly with money laundering has tried over the years to rope in the real estate area, because our economy and most economies across Africa are cash predominantly. So people rented these houses or they purchased them outright with huge sums of money. And because the transactions do not go through the banking system, it's very difficult to track who is engaging in what kind of financial transactions that investigators may trace on. As a result, landlords rent this house and flat the immigration rules, and they are not punished. And it takes them a very long time to be noticed or to be identified. But when it comes to cash and cash-dominated economies, these are some of the disadvantages you have, where some individuals may be engaging in some of these human trafficking and money laundering activities, and these schemes could try for a very long time. I think roping in the real estate in terms of who buys who, where do the monies come from, and who are the ultimate beneficial owners of these houses may serve a good purpose for not just the bank, but the Financial Intelligence Center and Yoko in particular, who are in the forefront of keeping these issues about human trafficking, money laundering, and the related crimes they poses.
But we're looking at the evolving nature of this crime. How should that also inform the strategy of the security agencies in clamping down and combating this? Because one, questions are being asked of how they even enter the country because we have porous borders, but then also how now they are moving from obscure places into specific areas. So some mapping of human traffic prone areas in the country, some have proposed could be the way forward. You agree with that?
Definitely. One of the difficulties the agencies have is the human resource and building capacity. Tracking human traffickers is a very risky job. Most police officers would don't want to get involved. When Madam Bobby Boy left the human trafficking unit of the Ghana Police Service, there was problem. And the migration unit in the immigration service will need to ask some few questions. Then the decks they have at the gender ministry, I am thinking Yoko should have a desk purposely for human trafficking. At National Security Secretariat, they will need to have a desk purposely for human trafficking. Then at the NIB or the BNI, they will need to have a desk purposely for human trafficking. Interagency collaborations have helped us in the past, working together with Bright Appear, Child Rights, and many of the NGOs within the space. It has really helped. And those days, we're having lawyers who were providing free services pro bono. And they were helping, I think Amaliba used to be one of them. And we come together as a team with the investigators who were in the field seeking for intelligence. And once we bring it and they gather the evidence, they go to court and prosecute. I think we will need to come back together. We will need to form back those teams again. Let private consultants and state agencies and their officers look for money and look for resources, not just from government sources, because those days we were writing to the international communities, and predominantly they were our source of funding. And once you can get those funding, trainings could be provided, stakeholder engagements could be done easily, traveling across the country to look out for the red flags could easily be done. And many people who have experience, who are outside of the domain, we could bring them back. And they will all be of help because individual skills and expertise may help to track some of these gangs and criminal schemes down. But after predominantly, resource management is key for these agencies, and that may result in their lack of preparedness or their inefficiencies. Then leadership. Then this whole jealousy about people not want to work with other people is you have a lot of expertise at your disposal. Then you bring in the media, and the media will tell the story for you. So I think we need to look at it in some of these areas again. It will really help our cause as a nation.
I do appreciate your thoughts as always. Mr. Commodore, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Richard Commodore is a former operative of BNI, now National Intelligence Bureau. They're so live here on Ghana Tonight. We're back shortly after this quick break. A number of you sharing your thoughts on this 120-day interface and the mapping that we did earlier today. Thank you so much for the thoughts coming through. Kofi Asari, Executive Director of the Africa Education Watch, was part of this education forum that Dennis Tate achieved. Says the scholarship law is being drafted by Attorney General and Ministry of Education. Edward submitted a memo to input last week. In addition, the Scholarship Secretariat has been put under Ministry of Education. Thank you very much. Also, we have one here coming through from Professor Kojo Apieje Etia at the University of Ghana Law School. He says, good evening. Illegal mining has not been banned, as well as we corroborated. Thank you very much for all your thoughts as well. Thank you. We're back shortly after this quick break. Stay with us. Goldfields Damang Mine should be managed going forward after government's refusal to review the lease. We hear from proposals from industry players and some CSOs as well who have waded into this matter. But the Ghana Mine Workers Union, they're calling for a joint venture between government and Goldfields for the Damang Mine rather than a full takeover by government. According to the union, the state may lack the capital needed to properly invest in the mine, potentially hindering its growth and expansion. Abdul Mumin Bana is the General Secretary of the Ghana Mine Workers Union, and he shared his thoughts earlier. But before that, let's recall the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Amakofibua, on this particular proposal and the decision by government to take over the Goldfields Damang mines. Take a look.
Especially on that mine, Ghana government sees na enunti na no pay mabaha. In the interest of the people of Ghana. Now, I am the same by to the people of Ghana. See, President Mahama say, "Nemo biya mamianga sa memra ambition." I mean, mamuna intise. Anama yetu mirano efa mo majuma ni mu future na niayeni go physical na ubia we ejuma ohano kofi na koda because we jimane is protected permanently. You are here obia you ya fan krama office benefo say abayin person oti say waka bi kofi because Goldfields say Ghana Mine say lease about to an end. Ghana Mine say lease about to an end. You can't answer. But what can be our way? The person want to say we stay here. I problem. And so sir, I can say so contractors, any contractors,
interacting with the workers of the Goldfields Damang mines, and they had fears that they were going to lose their jobs and so on. The assurance that government, through the minister, is giving to them is that the 1,500 workers, none of them would lose their jobs. The jobs will be protected. They will honor the existing details of the contract and also prioritize local hiring and procurement. And these were the reasons for rejecting the renewal bid by Goldfields. Government reasons. 1, a failure to declare verifiable gold reserves. 2, lack of clear technical mining program. 3, lack of exploration investment in the past 2 years by Goldfields Damang, and then doubts about long-term viability. So they had these reasons and reasons why government rejected this renewal bid by Goldfields. Bemboachi is the director of the Africa Center for LNG Policy. They are opposing this whole idea of government taking over this mine fully to operate. I appreciate you, Ben, for joining us. The Mine Workers Union is proposing a joint venture between the government and Goldfields. You say that government should just stay off the takeover. Why is that?
No, I think what we are addressing is the procedural errors in the refusal to grant the extension in the lease. When you agree to extend the lease as required by the agreement, you can negotiate any other term you want, even whether you want to take up majority stake, you want to operate it, and then keep the company in the background. Whatever you want can be negotiated in the lease extension, because the grounds for refusal are clear in the agreement. Unless there are breaches to this agreement, you cannot decline to renew the lease. That's simply because investments have been made, all right? Unless the investor decides that they want to cut their losses, right? Regardless of what investment they put in, they just want to leave it and exit. It happens. Companies come to explore for gold. They don't find anything. Nobody pays them money, and they leave, right? Companies set up to produce, expecting to produce certain quantum of gold. They are not able to meet their target. They exit, they lose their money, and they go. It happens all the time. But when the company decides that it makes economic sense to continue to produce in the leased area, it has to be renewed, and appropriate negotiations ensued for the benefits to be shared among the parties. And that guarantees the investor a certain climate within which they can put their money, and sends the right signal that the country will not be arbitrary and capricious when it comes to lease extensions after the company had made the investment. For example, I mean, even if you have a 30-year lease and on the 28th year, equipment's a breakdown, you need to raise money to do investment, you enter into difficult terrain, you have to invest. All of those investment matter, all right? And the way to encourage businesses to keep investing is to appreciate
the minister,
what goes
Ben,
into mining,
if you go on a bit for
difficulties in the mining, and
right.
be able to
The minister was quite clear in the reasons behind the decision to reject Goldfield's bid, the renewal bid. And they talk about the failure to declare verifiable gold reserves, lack of clear technical mining programs, lack of exploration investment in the past 2 years, and the doubts about long-term viability. Say these reasons are not cogent enough?
Because they don't make sense. I mean, if you say the company has failed to declare reserves, and you would think that by doing so, there are no reserves, because the company at one point said the reserves in that place did not meet the economic threshold for them to continue mining. If those variables that you put out are correct, that we don't have reserves there, why is the government interested? Is the government seeking to take over a mine that cannot produce gold? That cannot be accurate. I think they're just creating excuses to further the expropriation, ambitions of the government. And that is exactly what they've done. So if you look at procedurally, what they're supposed to do when a lease application is presented, you're supposed to evaluate the application. And if there are any concerns, for example, if you think that they have not produced a certain data, the law requires that you give them 10 days to remedy it. They were given 0 days, no remedies at all. You only wrote responding that you are not going to grant the extension and that they should prepare to leave. And today, we are told that the whole place has been militarized and the state is taking over the asset. That cannot be in good spirit and also in agreement with what the lease actually specified. So other investors are watching when a government behaves this way, and you have to determine whether you want to put your money in Ghana. And in this industry, we speak to industry players across the region in various investment fora. We travel with our state money to South Africa, to Canada and other places to attend conferences seeking investors. And if this is how we treat investors, we're going to struggle to raise capital to be able to invest in the mining industry and to that extent benefit from the sector. So we need to be cautious how we do these kinds of things. And one worry even for me is that when we assume that it's all rosy and the state can mine, we should remember that we've been in that space before, where we run, expropriated mining concessions down, and then we had to go back begging investors to come back. It took decades to be able to revive the mining industry.
Oh, Ben, I appreciate your time and your thoughts on this. And in the coming days, a bigger conversation about government's policy to nationalize some of these natural resources, the pros and cons, and which other areas of caution that you also propose is one that we'll be looking at in the coming days. But thank you. Thank you for your thoughts as always. Here on Ghana Tonight, Ben Boache is the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy. On behalf of the rest of the team, we do appreciate your time. Happy holidays, happy Easter, but we will be here tomorrow evening for a conversation. My name is Alfred Ocansey. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Sasso insecticide spray and coil.